multiple users, right? So now we will see when the each user submits the form, how the data in the instance will be get updated. Okay. So now I will quickly trigger the process model here, and I will fill all those details here. Any location, any. So now I'm giving the two attendees, guys. Okay.
Yes.
I'm giving two attendees here. So yeah. So when submits the form, there will be two instances will get triggered, guys. See here. For two users, two instances will be get triggered. So how do I will access this task from not to the backend, in the sense, if you want to access the tasks, assigned tasks, you have to go to the tempo here. Okay. So from the tempo itself, I can be able to access the assigned tasks. So I have got assigned with the check-in task, right? So now what I will do, I will open this check-in task from the tempo itself. See, this is the task got assigned moment ago. Two tasks got assigned here. Okay. So I'm opening my task here. So now I will accept the task here. I'm checking the task, check-in as a true. Okay. Submitted the task. So now going to the process model, refresh the instance. So one of the flow reaches to the end node. Okay. Going to the process variables here. Yeah. So here you can see my name here, and I have checked in as a true here. Right. So yeah. So my task got updated with the true here. So Ammu, can you quickly share your screen and submit your task?
Yes, Ganesh.
Yeah, share your screen and go to the tempo and submit your task as well. I will show you the details in the monitoring tab instance. Are you got assigned with the task?
Uh, I sent.
Yeah,
Is
here is her check-in task got assigned because two users I have given, right? So yeah, you can open a move. You can open and you check out, not in. Yeah, accept that. Accept the task. Yeah, check out. Yeah, the task got completed, right? So now I will share the screen. So see also her check-in tasks are submitted, guys. Okay. So now we'll see. So now again I will refresh the instance here. See, two tasks got completed and the entire process model got completed, right? So now you can see the check-in variable got updated with her name, and checkout as a false here because she did the checkout, right? Earlier I did the check-in as a true, so she did the checkout, right? So we are storing the checkout as a false here. So this is how we will update the data, guys, from the each user's feedback. So now what I want to do is, so after check-in or checkout, we need to update in the database, right? So how do we will update? Okay. So earlier I have shown you everything under the record types only, right? So now I will show you how to store the data with the CDT. Okay. So how many CDTs we have created? So going to the data type. So only one CDT I have created. So now I will create another CDT here, data type. I want to create from database table or the view option. So because database, we are already having the table, right? So now the data source will be the JDBC by Appian. So now the schema will be also Appian. Yeah, tables are coming up here. We'll search for T4 underscore attendees. Yeah, this is our table, guys. So now for this table, I want to create a data type. Yeah, T4 attendees. Yeah, it will be published in the data store. Okay. Now creating the data type. Yeah, data type created successfully and data store also published successfully, guys. Okay. So now clicking on the cancel. So now we have the data type. So using this data type, how do I will pass the data? Okay. How do I will pass the data to the database? So anyway, you can see it will be stored under the our data store object. Yeah, this is the data store object. Here you can able to see. Yeah, it is got published here. Okay. We can verify. Yeah, all the entities will get mapped successfully in the data store object. Yeah, entities mappings are verified. Save and publish. So now we established the entity mapping with the database table. Okay. So now what will happen? Now the connection between data type and the uh, database source table got established through the data store object. So now we want to send the data from the Appian to the data source. How we will send? Firstly, we will create a constant, guys, for the data type. Then we will use that constant to send the data to the database. Okay. So whenever you want to create a constant, you have to select here. So before writing name and description, you need to select the data store entity. Why? Because we have published our entity in the data store, right? So we have T4 data store. This is our data store. In this data store, we have two entities. See, two entities are showing here, right? So I'm selecting the second entity. Okay. Now DSC data store entity constant underscore attendees. Okay. So now creating this constant, guys. Why I was creating this constant in the sense to refer the entity, guys. To refer the entity. Why I was referring the entity? See here. When you want to store the data through the data type, we need to use the write to data store entity. See here. Where is it is? Yeah, write to data store entity. Here it is showing up, right? See, under the data services, you can able to see write to data store entity. So write to data store entity in the sense we are storing the data through the entity into the database. So to configure this smart service, I have to go to the properties here under the data tab. You can see it is asking the data store entity. How do I refer the data store entity? For referring the data store entity only, I have created the constant. So for calling the constant, which domain we need to use? We need to use the domain cons bank, guys. See, using the cons bank, use it to reference the constants. Yeah, here you can see we have already mentioned using cons bank, we are referring the constant using cons bank. Now quickly go to here T4. When I search with the T4, all application prefix objects are showing up here. See T4 DSC attendees. So now I'm giving up here. So we need to say for this entity, we need to pass the data as well. For passing the data, what I need to do? So you have to construct the data as a CDD structure because you can see here, this is the record type data, right? This is the record type data under the type of T4 attendees. So we need to cast the data to the CDT. How do I will cast the data? So so guys, here I will explain you how to cache the data from one data type to another data type, like from CDT to record type and record type to CDT. How do we will cache the data? For casting the data, what I required here, I require the data. See, uh, check-in attendee. Where is check-in attendee? Yeah, this is the check-in attendee, right? So this check-in attendee data, I will copy expression here. Okay, and going to the local variables here, local bank RT record data. Okay. So now I will modify this. See, this is the record structure data, guys. To to cast the data, how do I will cast by using the cast function. Here it is asking the type number and the value. Value should be the this whatever the data we are getting from the process variable, that will be the value. The type number. What will be the type number? How do I identify the type number? To identify the type number, what we need to do? Type of function we have. Using the type of function, we can get the type number. See, type of, it is asking me to give the value. So if you want to call the CDT, we can use the type bank, guys. Okay, domain we are having the type bank. So if you want me to show you, I will show you. See here, type bank is used to reference the Appian data type and the custom data type as well. Custom data type is nothing but the CDT. The type bank is used to reference the CDT. Use it to reference the CDT. So now using type bank T4, you can see T4 attendees. I'm calling here. Yeah. So now let's test this rule and check whether what was the type of the CDT. See 68968. This is the type number for the CDT. So now we have the type number, right? So now what I will do, I will pass the value to the cast function. What was the value here? The value will be local bank RT. So now let's see, guys. See now we have constructed the data, right? To the CDT structure. If you want me to show the difference between the CDT structure data and record structure data. This is the record structure data. So we have converted it to the CDT structure, right? So now I will copying the expression and pasting here. Then you will get the difference between both of them. See here. If you can see, uh, the above all are the record type structure data. This is the CDT structure data. So using CDT structure data, we will need to call the type bank and the CDT name, and all the values will be in the string format. So in the record structure data, all the values we will call them as a record type bank domain and the respective field names. In the CDT, we are giving the field names as a string here. So instead of single quotes, you can use double quotes as well. See. Here ID 48 it is coming, right? So now I'm passing as a double quotes of ID and colon 48. So the same output it will return. So as of now there is a error with the syntax. Yeah, see same output it is returning. So this is how we will construct the CDT data as well as the record structure data. So now we have casted the data, right? So now we will store in one process variable that casted data and pass to the write to data store entity to store in the database. Okay. So now for mapping and casting and sending the data, we need a one script task here to store the data, mapped data, and send that process variable data to the cast to CDT. So like that, we will label the node and going to the properties here under the data tab under custom output. So now what I will do, whatever the logic we have implemented here, right? So copy this and going to here and pasting here and control A and commenting this code. So instead of local bank RT, so what we need to pass? We have to pass the check-in attendee here. Okay. PV bank check-in attendee I am passing here. So now whatever the value will become, that value will be constructed as a CDT format and then save and closing this. So for holding this value, so what I will do, I will create one check-in. So not like that. T4 attendee CDT. Okay. So yeah, T4 underscore attendees. Yeah, this is the normal data type, custom data type. So I'm allowing the parameter. There is no multiple values are there. Only single values will be there. Okay. So you can do one thing, guys. So anyway, instead of one. Okay, yeah. So now okay, that's fine. Yeah. So now, on CDT. Yeah. Now we are storing the data and mapped into the process variable. So now going to this here. Write to data store entity configuration. Here input we need to pass node input. Node input is nothing but T4 attendees The type will be the T4 underscore attendees. Yeah, record type, not record type, not normal CDT. Okay, now the value will be the T4 attendees CDT. See, it is automatically coming because of the CDT structure. Okay, now we are passing the data and storing the stored values as well. Okay, both values I am passing. So yeah, so now we have configured the write to data store entity attendees, data store attendee entity. Now we are good, guys. So now uh, click on Control Alt S for saving and publishing the process model. So now, yeah, start process for debugging. Okay. So now I will show you how we will store the data in the database. NA and location will be the NA and attendance will be the Vanker. So those two users I am giving here and submitting the form. Once I submitted the form, see the form reaches the user input task, right? So now I will show you in the backend clouding database. Yeah, so now we will see what was the primary key here. So the meeting ID 50 got, sorry, not 50, meeting ID 20 got created. For the 20 meeting ID, we have given the two attendees. So now we'll quickly go to the our schema, Appian schema, and then we had a table as well, T4 attendees. Yeah, table under tables. Yeah, this is our table. So now we will go for the last rows of data. So now you can see, okay, one empty row got inserted. So now instead of that, where meeting ID equal to 20. Hmm, go. Sorry, spelling here. So here you can see for the meeting ID, three rows got created, empty row also got creating. So we will remove this row, no need to worry. So as of now, you can see here, two attendees, for the two attendees, two rows got created. There is no check-in values are there. So here you can see is active is true. So now when I open the form here from here, so this is the form which I got assigned. Accepting the task and checking. So now it reaches to the, yeah, so it reaches to the data store entity and it is got submitted, right? So again, I will refresh this data here. See here, check-in one got updated for my row, right? So again, I will open uh, second task, which is got assigned to the different user. So now from here itself, I will submit the form. So accepting the task. So now here in this time, now I will do the checkout. So now again, it is hitting to the database and it is got stored. Okay, that is fine. So now again refreshing here. See, it is got updated with the 0. So her task is got updated with the 0. So this is how we will store the data using our uh, write to data store entity. Right. So guys, do you have any queries on this? Casting the data and storing into the CDT and that map to the data store entity?
Hi,
Yes,
hi.
yes, Panji. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you have taken. I mean, you are converted the record type to CDT, correct?
Yeah,
So, is
yes.
it mandatory or just for an example you have explained us?
Yeah, so yes. So in the Appian, while giving you all the objects overview, right? So as of now, I have worked on only the record types. You can see Here as well I have configured the record type. Here as well I have configured the record type. I did not show you how to configure the CDT and pass the data over the CDT, right? So that's why I have shown you uh, write to data. For showing you the write to data storage, I have casted the data. It is not a mandatory. When you are using the record types, you can simply use the write records. So I can simply copy this node and paste here, right? So instead of doing like that, why I have casted in the sense and storing the data, because of to show you how to use the CDTs and write to
Editors.
data store entity and cache the data to CDT.
Got it, got it. So for an example, you have explained
Yeah.
us. Okay,
Yes,
got it.
I want to cover this CDT and data store topic as well. So that's why I have shown you the
Okay.
example. It is not a
So
mandatory. You
I
you can
have one
simply,
doubt.
yeah.
What is the entity actually, and what why we are need to create entities? That is what I mean. Just I wanted to refer that one again.
Yeah, nice question. So whenever CDT
So I
got
know that
created,
whenever if we want to sync CDT with the DB, we need to use data store. Correct?
yes.
Yeah. So I can confirm on that point, but I don't know what is entity and why we need to use that entity and how to use and where to use.
So yeah, there is no nothing is there in the entity. So whenever CDT is created, when we add a entry, when we add a entry in the data store, then we will call them. We will call it as a data store entity. So whatever the CDTs we are publishing in the data store, those entries we will call them as a data entities. So these are the CDTs, right? Whenever the CDT we are giving add a entry in the data store, then we will call them as an entity. So every entity in the data store will be a data store entity. So this is nothing but the entity. So each entity in the data store will be the data store entity.
Okay,
So that
whatever the
data store
entities we are creating, that we'll consider as an entity in data source. Correct?
in the data store, yes, in the data source, yeah. So that
Oh.
data store entity will be we will configure under the write to
Mm.
data store entity. Data store entity in the sense whatever the entities we are configuring the data store, that will be the
Mm.
data store entity. See here, here it is asking the data store entity. So now I for that only I have created the constant and passed here.
Mm.
For that
Correct.
value we need to pass, right? So that's why I have created the node input here to pass the value to the entity. So now what will it do? The smart service itself, it will store the data under the source.
Okay, got it. So, can you go to the entity once? You are verifying, right? That yeah, whether it is syncing with the DB or not, correct? When we
Yeah.
click on verify, so it will
Yeah.
sync the columns with the CDT columns, right? That columns
Yes.
in DB and the columns in CDT will be synced. If it is correct, it will show you the success message, correct?
Yeah. So if you want me to go in detail for this, so you
Mm.
can download the XSD from here. See here,
Okay.
under the XSD, uh, so there will be a one mapping, guys. So I will show you that mapping. See here, table name which is T for attendees. So in the database, this is the table, right? T for attendees. So this
Yes.
table we have mapped in the CDT XSD annotation. Okay. So
Mm.
now what will happen? So that table, okay, that table and the CDT, both are will be get synced. That is what we will verify. Both are got
Oh,
synced or not.
I mean
If
the
it is
table
not,
name should be synced or the columns.
yeah, whenever. So here I will explain one more point. Uh,
Mm.
See, assume in the database table we have 10 columns. Okay, in the
Mm. Okay.
CDT we have only 5 columns. Okay.
Okay.
These 5 columns are there in the database table. So it is not mandatory. Both the columns are equal and both all the columns should be there in the CDT or not. Whatever the columns you want to configure in the CDT, you can configure that in the CDT and you can establish the connection between the CDT and a table. How we will establish the connection? From here
Data
itself.
store.
See,
Mm.
yeah, see here. See here the ID is there, right? So for
Mm.
this ID, I will configure in the database column. See, here this is the This is the CDT field name. So here you can see at the rate column meeting ID is there. Na? That column we are mapping with the uh, database column name. You got my point. See
Okay.
here.
Yeah, yeah.
The meeting ID is
So
there, right? Yeah.
yeah, small confusion I'm getting. So my query is like whether it will compare the columns of DB with columns of CDT, or it will compare only the title of the CDT and the title of the DB.
No, columns as well. Columns as well and
Columns, so
count
both,
as well and the type as well. Yeah.
both.
Everything will
Okay,
be
okay.
compared. Yeah.
So it will
And
compare fields, I mean the types, column names, and also the table name should be same. So no
yeah.
case sensitive, right? It may be small, it may be
Yeah.
low, uppercase.
Yes.
Correct.
For this meeting ID, I can add ID here instead of meeting
Mm.
ID, CDT column name. But
Okay.
in backend, it is got mapped with the meeting ID, right? So whatever the
Yes.
value I'm passing through the ID, it will store under the meeting ID itself.
Okay.
You got
Here
my
I
point.
have confused.
This is the CDT column name, Manzoor. Okay.
Meeting
This is
ID.
the
Yeah.
database column name. Okay. So this
Okay.
database column we are not going to change. This will be the same. But
Mm.
CDT column name we can modify and we can map to
Okay.
the meeting ID, right? So whatever the value we are passing to the CDT column, that will store under
Mm.
the meeting ID.
Got it. Got it. So to avoid confusion, we are keeping same
Same names,
titles.
yeah. Same
Okay.
titles, yeah, labels.
Labels.
So
Okay. Got it.
everything we
Now
will
I.
map under the XSD, Manjur. Okay. So every
Okay. Got
mapping will
it.
be there in the XSD.
Okay, got it. Now, my general question I was asking. So,
Yeah.
in projects, what data types they are going to use preferred, whether it is CDT or whether it is record
Yeah,
type?
it's completely depend on the project, Manjur. So coming to my
Okay.
project only. So initially they have developed the entire project using
Mm.
CDTs. So
Yes.
later on they are slowly moving to the record types. How they are
Mm.
moving? If the requirement of coming adding a new table, they are not
Mm.
going to create a CDT. They are creating a recording types. Okay, record types they are creating and they are reusing the existing CDTs. They are not go for creation of new CDTs. They are using the existing CDTs, and when the requirement comes, they are using the uh, new record types. You got
Okay,
my point, right?
so yeah, you are telling me that already some applications were developed in CDT, so we are
Yeah.
now casting that to record type, correct?
Yes. True.
Yeah, got it. Got it. So we can do vice versa, right? Now you have done a record type to CDT. So if we need to do vice versa, we can do it. That as also, right?
Yeah, we
Correct?
can do that as well. Yeah.
Okay, got it, got it.
Yeah. If you
So
want me
in
to
this
show, I
code,
can.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
please, if you don't mind.
See, now the type of the record type should be 272, right? So now I will cast the 272 type with the
Mhm.
local bank CDT data.
Okay.
So now you can see here, guys. See, this is the CDT data we are passing here. So now we received as a record record structure data. So if you want me to show in the expression, it will be clearly show you. See, record type bank domain and the
Yeah,
record type
got
field
it.
name. You got
Thank you
it right,
so
Manju?
much. Yeah, yeah, got it. I have clear picture on CDT and record type now. So for converting, we need to use cached. Correct.
Yeah, yeah. In real time, we will usually do the casting only to convert the data from CDT to record type and record type to CDT.
Okay,
Yeah,
got it. Thank you so much for explaining.
yeah, sure. Yeah, going back to the next topic here. So guys, as we see earlier, I have discussed about the read-only grid, right? So now I want to discuss about the editable grid, guys. Okay. So now I will quickly give you overview on editable grid, and then we will configure the editable grid. So for that, where is the uh, I will compare with the read-only grid and I will create the editable grid, guys. Then you will get the clarity on both of them.
Yeah, by the way, I have one doubt. How
Yeah.
many inputs we can store in DB? Like the user is filling the meeting details, right? Like 1,000 of members may schedule calls to the in location like a Zoom or Teams, and it will be stored in database, right? How much data it can store?
Yeah, there is no
The file.
limit, Manjur. If you want to
Okay.
send 10,000 rows, 10,000
Mhm.
rows will store.
Okay. So no limit for that.
Yeah, no limit to send the data to the database.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So here, this is the grid field we have used for uh, showing the data as a read-only format, right? So now I will change the page size to 10 because it is entirely occupied the page, right? So now, yeah, now you can see, now we will configure the editable grid under the read-only grid. Okay. So now for that, quickly go to our here, 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 here. So now here. Yes, guys. So this is the editable grid component. So for that, before that, I will quickly go to the design mode and I will show you. Uh, yeah, see here under the grids and lists component, we have two types of grids are available. See, editable grid as well as the read-only grid. So when I drag the editable grid here, show what function it will show. It will show the grid layout function, guys. Okay. So now we will configure the grid layout function itself and we will pass the data from the read-only grid to editable grid and we will modify that as well. So how we will modify and everything I will show you now. So yeah. So when you go through this, see here, this is the grid layout, guys. This is the grid layout function we are using for configuring the editable grid. Now, yeah, this is the grid layout function. So same parameters we can able to see like instructions, label, and validation group, selectable or disabled. What are the parameters we have seen in the read-only grid? Those parameters are available. Apart from that, we have a few other extra parameters are there, guys. So I will explain those parameters now. So what are those parameters? We have the header cells and the column configurations and rows as well as the add row link. So in the editable grid, so what are the extra parameters we have to work on it is uh, these are very important, guys. These parameters only we will need to create. Which parameters? Yeah, header cells and then column configurations and then rows, rows, and then add row link. Add row link we have to configure. So these are the four columns we usually configure while creating the editable grid, guys. So when you see read-only grid, we don't have these parameters. I'll quickly go to here. Yeah. When you see here in the read-only grid, so the data parameter is there and the columns parameter is there. Apart from that, there is no, in grid only grid, there is no header cells are there, column configurations are there, rows are there, nothing is there. So everything we will configure under the grid column itself. In the grid column itself, it will it will come with the header as well as the row values. How will it is coming the row values? By using the FVBang row, each row we are configuring the each row value. Like for this row, we are want to display the ID, right? And for this row, for this second grid column row, I want to display the subject. So see, if I did not, so what I want to convey here, guys, see, we'll go to the here. So he, so here, guys, you can see here. So now assume this is a grid, guys. Okay. So whatever the cells I am highlighting, this is the grid. Okay. So we have the headers called A, B, C, D, E. These are the headers. And these are the 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the rows. Okay. In the read-only grid, we everything we will configure like headers and the row values and the column configurations like see, under the column configuration, we can able to configure the width of the column and background of the column. So those details, everything we will configure under the grid column parameter itself. So now you can see here for this row, I don't want to show entire data. For this row, for this particular column, I want to show only ID. See, now it will display for this grid column. In the grid column itself, it will show the header and the row value as well as the width of the column you want to adjust, you can adjust. If you want to add the background color, you can able to add the background color as well. So this is how we will configure the headers and the row values and the column configurations in the read-only grid. Coming back to the editable grid. Editable grid. So for the headers, we need to use the separate parameter called header cells parameter. Okay. So see, before configuring anything, so here you can see this is the editable grid, guys. So in this editable grid, we have not configured the any header cells, right? So this function it is showing as header cells must not be null or empty. See here. So there are three parameters they have given you. See by defaultly. So that means these are the required parameters we need to pass. Okay. So for configuring the headers, we need to use the header cells parameters, guys. For header cell parameter, which function we need to use? We need to use the grid layout header cell. So I'm using grid layout header cell here under the grid layout function. So now here see grid layout header cell I'm using and it is asking me the provide the label. Label I will provide subject. Okay, subject I want to provide the label. See you can see header got added. Okay, header got added and now we need to set the column configuration. We can set as of now we will leave this and we need to configure the row value. How do we will configure the row value? Okay, for configuring the rows we need to use the abang grid row layout function, guys. Grid row layout function we need to configure the rows. So in the grid row layout, it is asking us to configure the contents. Contents in the sense, what are the contents you need to pass to edit the data? Which type of content you want to use to edit the data? For the subject, it is the text field we are using, right, while creating the meeting. So now here as well, I will use the text field here. Text field, yeah. So now you can see under the subject header, you can able to see there is one editable text field is coming up, right? So now you can see here under the subject we had a editable text field is coming up, right? So like that, if you want to add a location as well, you want to edit the location as well, how do we will edit the location? So for adding the location as well, we need to add one more grid row layout header cell, guys. See, grid row layout header cell I have added for the location. Now you can see grid row layout header cell location got added. But there will be an issue, quite common issue we are facing this. So I will list out this issue to overcome these issues from your side. See guys, what was the issue it is throwing up here now? So invalid value for the rows. Every row layout must have same number of components. It must be the number of header cells at the index. At the row at index 1 has one component but expected two components. Why? See here. See here. So we have configured the two header cells, right? So that means we need to configure the two components here. Why? Because of, see here, for the A header cell, this is the values. For B header cells, this is the values, right? So, so we are capturing the A header cell values under the one text field. Same like that for B header cell, we if you want to capture those B header cell values, you need to use the another component, whatever it may be, text field, date field, integer field, whatever it may be. So you have to use the component here to capture the header cell values, B header cell value. For that only, I'm again copy pasting this text field here and passing here. So the thumb rule you have to keep in your mind it is, so how many number of header cells you are configuring, those many uh, components we have to configure in the grid row layout, because two header cells we require two components. So whatever the subject value we are entering here, that value we will capture under the subject, and whatever the value we are entering for the location, that will be captured under this. Okay. So yeah, so same thing. So if you configured extra header cells and you have not configured the extra component, it will throw the error, right? So now I have configured the extra component in the grid array layout, but I have not configured the header cell for that component. Let's see. See here, it is throwing the error now. What error it is throwing? Every row layout. Row layout in the sense, this is what guys, row layout. So every row layout must have same number of components. It must be number of header cells. See here, we have three components we have used, one, two, three for each row layout. But I have used only two header cells here. So what it is was asking me to configure. It is asking me to configure same number of components you have used for the row layout must be equal to the header cells. So now earlier what I did, I have configured the two header cells but only one row layout component, right? So now at that time it is asking me to configure number of header cells equal to the number of components in the row layout. So same like that, now it is asking me to configure the number of row layout components are there must be equal to the number of header cells. So now I will add one more header cell here to match the components which we have configured in the grid row layout function. See, now you can see three components, three header cells. So what I want to convey here is, so if you want to configure the editable grid, you have to configure the header cell as well as the row layouts. Okay, row layouts you have to configure. So this is the editable grid, right? So now I want to edit the existing data, not the, I want to edit the existing data. I don't want to send the new data, right? So now, instead of this here, Ctrl X, Ctrl V, I will add meeting ID. So now you can see here, yeah, this is the meeting ID and the subject and the location. Now I want to pass the data to the, this guys. So before that, I will show you one more thing in the read-only grid. I want to select the data and pass the data to the editable grid, guys. How do you achieve this? Okay. So for that only, what I will do, I will create one local variable called local bank edit data. Edit data I want to store. Whatever the data I want to edit, that data I want to store. Okay. So for storing the data, what I need to do? Here I will add one more grid column. Okay. One more grid column. Here the label is not there. So I'm using the display value functions, guys. I'm using the display components. Okay. Display components I'm using. What are the display component we have? One of the display component which have rich text display field. Under the rich text display field, we have the value parameter. Under the value parameter, we have the rich text icon. So here we can add the rich text icon, guys. Icon should be edit. So how do I find the icons? Here in the editor, we have the view icons is there. You can search with the keyword called edit. Yeah, you can see when you click on edit, you can see the number of icons, right? So now I will add the edit icon here. Yeah. So we have the link parameter, guys. So I have not explained you the links, right? So now we will configure the links. Under the link parameter only, we can able to configure the links. So link, how many links are there? You can see here we have multiple links are there, like authorization link, document download link, dynamic link, news entry link, process task link, and record link, and user record link, report link, safe link, start process link, submit link. So we will use every link here. So as of now, our scenario, I will go with the dynamic link. So using this dynamic link, whatever the user clicks on the link, right? So we can store the values to the one of the local variable or rule input using the dynamic link. So now, so so in the dynamic link, so what are the values we are having? We have the value and save into. I want to configure the save into, guys. Save into is this one, and in the save into, I need to use the evaluation function called abank save. Under the evaluation function, the target will be the local bank edit data. Under the edit data, I want to store the FP bank row. Entire row I want to store. Okay. So now you can see there are two rows having the icons, right? So whenever I click on this, so the dynamic link will get activated, and in the dynamic link save into, I want to store the entire row, right? So now I am clicking the dynamic link. See, when I click the dynamic link, right? See, the data got saved under the edit data local variable, right? Now you can see the data. So now what I want to do, I want to pass this data to the editable grid to be edit this data. So now I'm going to the editable grid here. Under the editable grid, we have the rows. Under the rows, we have the components, right? So now I will add the value here. Value will be the value will be the index of, or else local bank edit data dot. So it won't fetch. This is the record type, right? So we need to use the record type bank T4 attendees dot fields dot ID. Index of local bank edit data. So now you can see ID here. Okay, we are doing different, guys. Sorry, this is the meeting data, right? So I'm calling the attendees in dot fields dot ID. So now it will show. See here, the one it is got displayed, right? Earlier also it will show, guys. See, I have to call the, instead of attendees, I have to call the meeting. T4 meeting dot fields dot ID. See, now it is showing, right? So the same value we will configure for save into as well. So like that, we will do for every component in the editable grid. But for the subject, I will pass the subject here. And for the location column, I will pass the location. Yeah, location column I have added. See, now you can see that above read-only data, now we are can be able to edit, right? So now I want to remove meet hash 2 and then I want to store session. See here, the value got updated in the local variable, right? The updated value we can easily store in the database. So this is how we usually update the data using the read-only grid. Now you got it, right? Do you have any queries, guys, up to now? So I want to change the data. I can click on another icon, right? So now it will update with the local bank edit data. So now you can see the different data it is showing up here. Manjur, are you clear with this? To configure the editable grid by using the header cells, rows.
Yeah, got it. So you're telling me that for each entry we need to create each field, correct? The
Yeah,
code.
see. Yeah, see. Yeah, nice question, Manjur. See,
Mm.
in the so if you want to configure another row in the editable grid, you have to use another grid row layout. So now it will show you the another row.
Okay. Can we
See,
use instead of repeated task, can we use for each loop to do that?
yeah, that is what my next
Okay,
topic.
sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry
no
for.
issues, no issues. Yeah, no issues. So, so this will be not a static, right? I mean,
Hmm. Yes.
rows we can't define as a static, right? So every time, see the user. So now I want to explain one more thing in the readable grid, in the read-only grid. So I will change this to the page size to the 3. So at a time, I want to edit 3 rows and submit the data to the database. Okay. So by statically, I can't able to give the grid row layouts like this, right? For each row, I can use this function static, right? I mean, statically, I have given 2 times. So if the user edit 3 rows at a one go, how can I do that? So again, I don't need to change the code, right? So for that only, we will use the looping function to iterate the grid row layouts. Before that, before that in the editable grid we are selecting first row. So what will happen, the local variable got edit data got updated with the first row, right? So again, I'm clicking on the second row. So what will happen? It is overriding. It is overriding the data, but it is not appending to the data called local bank edit data. So how do I store the data which is already we have selected? I want to add the data which I have already selected to the row. I mean, already I have edit. Click on the first row, right? Whenever I click on the second row, I want to add that second row to the existing row, first row. So for that, what we need to do? We need to use the append function, guys. Okay, append, append for the which array I want to append to the local bank edit data. So now you can see. So now we have already ID2 data is there. So now I want to append the ID1 data to the local bank edit data. So at a time we can able to see uh,
Actually, I guess we need to use join array, I guess,
join array
instead of.
for string values joining.
Okay, got it, got it.
Yeah,
So
that is the array.
append is
Yeah,
to add 2 rows, I
array.
mean, existing array, right? Adding another
Yeah,
array to the existing array
yeah.
at the end.
Y-
Okay.
Yes, at then. See, now you can see one row got added, right? Which is the ID1 row. So now when I click on ID2, the second row will also will get added, adding to the same local bank edited data. When I click on the third row, so the third row will also got adding to the edited data. So like that, we are adding the multiple rows, right? So how many rows? How many rows? We are adding to the local variable. Those many row layouts I want to iterate in the editable grid to be edit. See here. So what is happening here? So it is showing 3 rows. values in a same row, right? Each row, right? So I mean, in the single row itself, it is showing all the values, right? So I don't want to show like this. I want for each row. So for each row, I want a new row will be created for the each data in the editable grid. How do I achieve this? For achieving this only, we will use the looping function, guys, to iterate. How many items are there in the edit data? Those many grid array layouts we are iterating. So now I will show you for each function. In the grid row, the rows, we can use the for each function. In the for each function items, what we will do, we will pass the local bank edit data. So how many items are there in the edit data? Those many grid row layouts will iterate. So yeah, so you know already three rows are there in the edit data, right? So the three grid row layouts will be get iterate now. See now you can see three rows are there. Three rows got created, right? But the data will not be for each row, each items are not coming. So for coming that, what we need to do? I have earlier already shown you know. Instead of that, if you want to use the each item in the items, we need to use the FE item. So now when we use the FE item, what will happen? So the each item value it will display in the each row. I am replacing the local bank edit data with the FE item. See now you can see. So now I will go to the next page and I want to add one more row here. So now if you add dynamically the rows into the edit data, those many rows will come under the editable grid by using the looping function called for each. In the for each items, we are iterating the local bank edit data, right? See, now fourth row also got created, right? See, fourth row got created with the meeting ID and the meeting details. So now if you want to add a fifth row, you can able to add the fifth row as well. Okay. These are all existing rows data we are trying to add. We are trying to add, right? Existing rows data we are trying to add in the editable grid and trying to modify. So now I want to come with the new scenario called I want to add a new blank row to be added into this meeting details. How do I achieve this? So for that only we have one more parameter called add row link. Add row. You have to focus on add row. Add row, how do we will add? By using the add row link parameter. Okay. By using the add row link parameter, we can able to add the row. So now I will show you how to add the row. So now under the rows, I will call add row link parameter. So for the add row link, which function we can able to use? For the add rows link, yeah, we need to use the dynamic link to add a new row. So now what I will do? I will call the dynamic link here. So in the dynamic link, I will provide the label as a create new meeting. Now you can see the create new meeting link got added under the grid, right? So now what will be the save into? Save into will be a bank save. Anyway, in the looping function, we are using the local bank edit data in the items parameter, right? So that will be only the target variable. Edit data and what the value I have to store. I have to store what value? I have want to store the record structure data. So record structure data, how can I append that record structure data? To append the record structure data, you need to call the record type and the record type name T4 meeting. In the T4 meeting, we have the what values we want to iterate. Yeah, we want to iterate the values called what values we required subject. Subject is null here and the location as null here. Okay. And ID as well, null here. Okay. So this is the record structure data I want to append to the grid. So now you can see, uh, so so this is the new data we want to add to the existing data, right? So we need to use append function, guys. Append function to add to the existing array, which is local bank edit data, right? Bank edit data, comma, local bank edit data I'm using here. So now you can see here. So we are appending the data, new data to the existing rows. So now when I click on this create new meeting, what will happen? This action will get triggered. Under this action, a sixth row will be get adding here. See, new row, sixth row got added, right? With the details called meeting ID null, subject null, location null. So now you can see as well in the editable grid, the new row got added with the empty values. So this is the new meeting. So if you want to edit the existing meeting, you can add the existing meeting details as well here. So now this will comes under seventh row. See here, under the new meeting row, we had a existing meeting details as well. Guys, do you have any queries on the iteration of the dynamic iteration of the grid row layout and adding a new link, new row? Have you got how to configure the header cell, how to iterate the rows by using the grid row layout, and in the
Yeah.
grid row layout, how many components we need to configure and how to create a new row as well? You got it, right?
Yes, yes. We do hands
Yeah,
and then we can understand.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. So I want to explain one more scenario in this. See here, I have already added the meeting ID one details, right? So whenever I click on this again, this meeting ID details, what will happen? It will again add the same row. Duplicate rows are adding, right? So already one is there, but again the row is there. Again the row is getting added, so we need to restrict the user to did not enter add the already existing rows. How can I restrict that? So simply I will make the link as a disabled. How do I make the link as disabled? So in the link we can add one condition lies. How can I add the condition? If condition I will use if contains function, we need to check the array contains the value or not. So I want to check the array which is local bank edit data, local bank edit data containing fp bank row. Entire row is there in that array. What I will do, if it is contains na, then it will return true, right? At that time I don't want to use the link, I will use empty there. So if it is not there, then I will use the dynamic link. See, the three rows are already existing in the local bank edited data. So that's why the link is got disabled. See here, data conversion issue is coming up. Can attend on the same time, but you are asking me to come. So for that only, to avoid that scenario, we need to do the null check as well. And so anyway, we are comparing the array, right? So that array should not be null. So this is the array. So I don't want this array to be null. So that's why I will add one more condition called E is not null or empty. E is not null or empty of local bank edit data, and if the array contains the row, then only it will be empty. Otherwise, it won't be empty. See, null condition we have added here. So now you can see here. So yeah, nothing rows are added, right? So the links are enabled. So when I click on this add new row, sorry, add details to the editable grid. So the data got added to the editable grid and the link is disabled. So we can't able to add it again, right? So now we are good with the adding the rows. So you have mistakenly added the row here. So you don't want to add this row here. You want to remove this row from this editable grid. How do you will remove this row? So for removing the row, what I will do, I will add one more grid header cell here, and I will add one more component for that grid header cell, which is rich text display field. Display field I am using here, rich text display field. Value will be the rich text item, not icon. Icon will be the which icon I want to use. So I want to use remove icon. As per our scenario, we need to use the remove icon, right? So now I will go with the deletion icon. Okay, deletion of the rows, and the link we are having. In the link only we will perform the actions like deletion, adding a new row, everything. So in the link again, I'm using the dynamic link. Today I'm using the dynamic link only. Yeah, in the save into again a bank save. We need to use the evaluation function. Everything we will store under the local bank edit data. So we need to remove the index, guys. Index of the particular array. How do we will remove the index? By using the remove function. What I can do? I can pass the array here, local bank edit data. Then I have to pass the index. How can I pass the index? By using the fvbank index. In the for each function, we can use the fvbank item for current item. If you want to know the current item index, you can use the fvbank index here. So now you can see here, the color will be red only, negative. So guys, so here in this scenario, see the column width is very long. I don't want this column to be this much of width. So to configuring the width only, I was saying we need to configure the column configurations. How do I will configure the column configuration? We have the grid row layout column configuration function is there. See, for the column configurations, we need to use the grid layout column configuration. A bang. A bang grid layout column configuration. Width it is asking. Width. By use default width we are using for first three rows. Control Z. Yeah. So we have how many are there? Fourth row is there. We need to change the width, right? So we need to add three for first three, and then we will add for the fourth column width, and the width will be on like a icon we have. Icon is there, right? So I want to add the icon width here. So now it will be applicable for icon width. See, the width is now got added with like a icon, right? So the column configurations have also we have configured. So for the editable grid, we have configured the header cell, column configuration, rows, and add row link. These are the key components we need to configure in the editable grid. We have touched the every component, every function. So now whenever I click on this link, what will happen? It will remove the current index from the local bank edit data. So the now row go back to this grid again. See, I'm adding the multiple rows here. So you have mistakenly added the second row. You want to remove that second row. If you can click on the second index, so it is removing the current index, second index from the local bank edit data, and then remaining indexes are you can able to see. You got it right, Manjur, Pranali, how to remove the index and how to disable the links.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so yeah, this is meant by read-only grid and editable grid. As you know, we discussed the grids and lists here. So tomorrow, I will show you how to submit this modified data to the database and how to refresh the editable grid. Sorry, when you modified in the editable grid and you submit the form, submit the grid. So again, the details will refresh in the editable read-only grid, right? So that details we will see. Okay, layouts we discussed, input sections we have discussed. So coming to the selections are pending, guys. I will explain you the selection components. So that in the display components, today I used the display components called rich text display field. This is the display field component I have used. So here this is the display field component, edit icon, and see, and the delete icon is as well the display field component. So we have touched the display field components as well, and we have used the buttons as well, like record action. This is the record action, guys, we have used, and buttons we have used under the check in and check out, cancel and submit buttons. In the link components, I have used the dynamic links as well. We have touched the actions as well. And coming to the lists, we have touched the editable grid, read only grid, and event history list as well. We will discuss, no need to worry. And yeah, charts and pickers. We will discuss charts and pickers, and the selection components we will discuss. Okay, in the one class, we will discuss about the selection components, charts and pickers as well. We will discuss. Okay, as of now, I'm saving this. So I have to add the validations as well. I remembered this. If I add the validation, na, so while testing itself, it will allow us. It will not allow us to submit with improper data. So that's why I have not added the validations. I have in my mind we will add the validations as well. So you can see here. In the major one of the major difference I can want to highlight here is, see, here you can see here, you can have to navigate to the different pages, right? I have provided the page size as 3, so that's why threatening the 3 rows for each page. So when you want to go to the next page, so you can simply going, right? So for this pagination, I have not configured the anything. I have not configured anything. This is the default pagination we have having for read only grid. So that is the difference, guys. So in the read only grid, what is the difference between read-only grid and editable grid? If they ask, na, read-only grid having the default pagination shows the data as a read-only format. So coming to the editable grid, we don't have the default pagination. Default pagination in the sense that is what? A row changing and getting the data. We don't have default pagination. We don't have the default pagination. We which we can which can edit the data inline. Inline also we can edit the data. That means we don't have the default pagination which can edit the data inline. So see, row by row we are editing the data, right? So that is what inline editing data. So here we can't able to edit the data, but here it is having the pagination. So what I want to show here it is, so in the editable in the read only grid, this is the grid column. So in the grid column you can see paging save into is there. Okay, pagination, paging save into is there, right? So those options are not there in the editable grid. So I have this in my backlog. See, we'll take one more class to editable grid with pagination. So I will explain one day how to apply the pagination to the editable grid as well. So okay, this will take one of the class. I will explain this one as well. Yeah, guys, do you have any questions? We are good with the today. Okay, then coming to the POC here. So we have created the meeting and sending the email to the attendees as well. And we have created the check-in tasks as well. We are capturing the check-in information as well. So next we want to send the feedback. So that feedback details we will pass, no need to worry. And meeting summary record details we can able to create, and cancel meetings as well we can able to add. These are the leftover things in the POC, and we will do that as well in the next classes, no need to worry. While covering the Appian topics as well as the POC as well, we will complete simultaneously. I'm adding the tasks as well here. You can go through the tasks as well. Okay, read only grid and the drop down field selections.